Viewers, before we dive in, drop your city and current local time in the comments. It's always good to know who's tuning in and from where. Now picture this, the front doors of Caleb Hart's barbecue joint blast open like some low-budget Western saloon scene. No reservation, no polite nod, just a wave of HOA brass waltzing in with two uniformed cops like they're early for a coronation. They don't even glance at the "please wait to be seated" sign. They head straight for the best corner booth, the one with the perfect sight line to the kitchen and the dining room like they own the place. Menus and beer orders get tossed out before anyone says the word inspection. Caleb watches them settle in all smug grins and half-laughs, not realizing that in a couple of hours those same grins will curdle into panic, and that booth will feel more like a witness stand. 3 years earlier, a real estate deal had gone sour and scraped Caleb's savings down to the bone. His wife Lena had been there outside the bankruptcy court when he'd promised next time they'd be ready. And ready didn't just mean clean counters and up-to-date permits. It meant layered security cameras tucked where no inspector thought to look, insurance records backed up in the cloud, every move documented. Caleb hadn't set it all up out of trust in the system, more like lack of it. The hostess leans in, whispering about a city health department complaint, voice tight like she's reporting a fire in the kitchen. The cops, Sergeant Todd Riker, built like a wrecking ball, and Officer Ben Hale, young and cocky, plant themselves like they're anchoring the room. Riker announces they'll conduct the investigation from here, but his eyes are glued to Lena, not the permits on the wall. With them sits Victoria Purse, HOA compliance chair. Her tone is warm as a foreclosure notice. Next to her, Dylan Vega, tie too tight, briefcase too big, keeps shifting in his seat like his conscience is itching. Every time that bag moves, Caleb catches a glimpse of plastic inside. The historians still argue whether a villain's first tell is in the eyes or the hands. In Caleb's book, it's both. Over in the far booth, a man in civilian clothes, Chief Alan Brooks, nurses a sweet tea, barely moving except to give Caleb the smallest nod. That nod says, "Not yet." Caleb bites his tongue, the metallic taste sharp in his mouth. In the dead zone behind the swinging door, the kitchen crew hums along, unaware that the night's about to veer from smokehouse normal into a sting operation for the books. Victoria's voice carries across the dining room, hitting words like temperature control and cross-contamination with the theatrical precision of a late-night infomercial host. Most folks hear an inspection. Caleb hears the opening act of a setup. Behind the register on a 6-inch monitor that the HOA team doesn't know exists, the real show's starting. Dylan cracks his briefcase, pulls out a plastic container, and starts sprinkling dead roaches into a bowl of coleslaw like he's topping a sundae. If there's a cooking competition for sabotage, this man's going for gold. Caleb's finger hovers over his phone. Lena set up their live stream app months ago for charity drives and behind-the-scenes BBQ prep. Tonight, it's about to become Exhibit A. He pushes the feed live, 50 viewers, then 100, then the counter climbing like it's got a grudge. Out in the dining room, the air is still calm, but it's the kind of calm you get before a thunderhead breaks. He steps between Victoria and the plates Dylan's trying to taint. "You're about to see the most brazen fraud attempt I've ever witnessed in a kitchen," he says, steady as if he's announcing a lunch special. Dylan freezes, blurting, "I didn't know there was a camera there," which is the legal equivalent of walking into a courtroom wearing a t-shirt that says "guilty." Victoria fires back, calls it a deep fake, claims it's just a misunderstanding, but the walls are closing in. Because Caleb's not the only one with a story. The door slams open and Tony Costa storms in, eyes red, voice shaking. "That's him," he shouts, jabbing a finger at Dylan. "He dumped bugs in our marinara 2 days before we had to shut down." The dining room goes quiet in that heavy, listening way, like the room itself knows the truth when it hears it. Chief Brooks finally rises, slow and deliberate. "Sergeant Riker, Officer Ben Hale, on your feet." No shouting, just the kind of command that bypasses your ears and lands straight in your spine. Badges come off, cuffs go on. Metal meets bone with that unmistakable snap, the one you can feel through the floorboards. Historians still argue whether the most satisfying sound in justice is the gavel's thud or the click of a handcuff. Tonight it's no contest. And while most folks would call it a night right there, the play isn't over. Victoria's mask cracks, fear, rage, calculation all flash across her face. Dylan breaks completely sobbing about how she made me do it, how it was all to protect property values. Caleb just keeps the cameras rolling because sometimes sunlight's the only disinfectant that works. Victoria's final card comes out in a flutter of papers. Claims Caleb owes 3 years of back taxes, that his license is fraudulent, that the whole place is operating illegally. For a heartbeat, it works. That old hollow drop in his gut returns the one that moved in during bankruptcy and never quite left. Lena's hand on his arm steadies him, and then Caleb flips the packet open. Same forged template the task force has caught in 3 other cities. That's Agent Ruiz's cue. She steps in all quiet authority and tells the 1,000 people now watching the live stream that Caleb agreed to be bait so they could document the network planting evidence, forging documents, bribing officials. The kitchen smells of hickory and slow-cooked brisket, but there's another scent now, the electric ozone of a trap, springing shut. Mason Ward, Caleb's old army buddy, puts a hand on the shoulder of Victoria's attorney when he tries to block her arrest. "Gotta stay, counselor," he says, not unkindly, but with the sort of finality that ends debates. Victoria's cuffs come last, the ratcheting click oddly musical against the background murmur. Agent Ruiz reads the charges: conspiracy to commit fraud, bribery, forgery, racketeering, and adds a twist that makes the crowd gasp. The alley behind the smokehouse isn't just an alley, it's a private harbor access worth over $3 million. That's what this was all about. By the time the news trucks arrive, the block feels different, like neighbors suddenly see each other for the first time. Veterans stand at the exits, keeping things orderly. Kids gape at the cameras. Clips of Dylan's confession and the arrests flood social media by sunrise. The city announces an audit of HOA actions for the past 2 years. Agent Ruiz tells Caleb the networks reach 7 states, dozens of communities, and hands him a federal reward check. 2 weeks later, a different HOA calls from out-of-state fishing for partnerships. Caleb puts them on speaker so Lena can answer, happy to chat about cameras and compliance. Want to start with the part where we caught your exact move on 8 angles, or let it be a surprise? The line dies so fast it's almost polite. And so on a humid Saturday night at Harbor Smokehouse, the scene is nothing but ribs, glistening under warm lights, family shoulder to shoulder, Mason telling the same story again like it's brand new, Tony swapping recipes at the bar. The cameras are still up, the permits still framed, and the porch door still sticks when the humidity climbs. It's just a restaurant, but it feels like a neighborhood that chose not to get pushed around. The pace softens now, like the end of a long blues riff. Caleb moves through the dining room slow, letting the sound of forks and laughter wash over him. Outside, the harbor air carries the faint tang of salt and mesquite smoke. He knows there will be other fights, other days when people in pressed suits try to tip the scales. But for tonight, the balance feels right. Lena leans into him, and for a moment they're back in that courthouse parking lot, only this time the weight in his chest is pride, not fear. The lights are low, the table's full, and the world outside can wait until morning. For now, it's enough to stand in a place built on good work and stubborn refusal and breathe easy. The story winds down here, gentle as the smoke curling from the pit, fading into the dark with nothing but the quiet promise that they'll be ready always.